Hey there, Black Mom Diaries. Ever have a desire to travel abroad with your kids and then come back second-guessing yourself thinking, this is impossible? Well, maybe our guest from today will put your mind at ease. Miss Iolani Bullock is here to talk all about her travel experience with her kids. And I gotta tell you, what she has to say is full of encouragement and fun. Up next on the Black Mom Diaries. Hey guys, this is Patricia.
And I am LaTanya.
And we are, Welcome
to the Black, I put a duh on it. Oh my gosh. Black Mom's Diary. No, you are not listening to a different podcast. This is Black Mom's Diary.
Yes.
Where did you get the duh from?
Did you say duh? I didn't even hear you say duh. I was like, Black Mom Diaries. Yeah.
Acting like I'm from the streets. Duh, Black Mom Diaries.
You said duh, Black Mom Diaries.
Yeah.
I thought you were like, duh, we're the Black Mom Diaries. So
look at that. I love you.
Streets. I was like, nobody on the street says duh.
We cut out words, cause I just, no. So how are you today?
I am good. I'm doing good. We just recently did the whole passport thing, and I haven't written a check in forever, but I wrote a check at the passport office, and I was so excited when I checked my bank to see that they finally cashed the checks, because you have to do separate checks for every single passport. But anyway, they cashed them. So I'm like, woohoo!
Whoa, nice.
The passport department. So yeah, that felt like a major win for me. How are you doing?
Oh man, I'm happy that you got your passport.
Well, it's not here yet. It's not here yet.
Well, they took the money.
They took the money. So that means to me, it's like on the way. And the booklets are being made as we speak. That's what I'm thinking.
Let me be grateful for your passport. We will get ours in the not too distant future, but we got a lot of things to do right here, and places to go. My kids have places lined up for me.
I love it.
They say they want to stay on a boathouse. We can do that. You know where we can go to Washington? We can go up there and stay on a boathouse. Mm-hmm. They said they want to, what do they say? A cabin in the winter. Okay. We can find that here. And I got one that wants to,
A yurt?
That's really cool. A yurt. I know. They have those in a little, not too far from here, over in Lago Vista, Texas. I was driving and they're up on a hill. Okay. And you can rent one to stay over there, and it's beautiful over Lago Vista. I never ever thought about having a little yurt night over there. That sounded like something that happens in your stomach, but I never thought of going to stay in a yurt over there. But that would be fun. So they have things that they want to do here, and they want to go hiking, and so. Let's do that first.
Got a list. Yeah.
They are very decisive and persuasive. That's it.
Even better.
So that's really along the lines of what we're talking about today, right? Mm-hmm. Yes, we have a guest. Yay!
I love it. I'm so excited about this person. I have always had a desire. I've always had a desire to travel. And I feel like we do not travel nearly enough. And when I was a kid, my sister and I traveled so much by default, but it was, we traveled by car to different places with our great aunt and uncle. We flew quite a bit. And I always tell my kids, by the time I was y'all's age, I was a pro at flying. And my sister and I, we used to fly all the time, mainly because my parents got divorced. So we were going back and forth. But, that's like, I need to get those two on a plane. And, they have a list too. My daughter wants to go to DC. We've been there, but she wants to go back. My son wants to go to Seattle. I've been there.
He can go with that.
Yeah, right.
Let's do it.
Y'all, let's go to Egypt. Let's go to Maldives. Let's get out of the States and go somewhere far away.
Yeah. When I was growing up, it was Amtrak. 24-hour ride from Florida to New York every summer. And
cool.
It was a very cool ride. A lot of memories traveling in. So who we got today with us? Whose special mom do we have today?
Well, since you asked, her name is Iolani Bullock, and she is a Bronx native who caught the travel bug at a young age. She's been lucky to have a career that feeds her love of travel and desire to learn about other cultures. A diversity, equity, and inclusion professional by day and novelist by night, she received her Bachelor of Arts from New York University and her MBA from Georgetown University. She's a mother of two who believes in the power of normalizing differences and seeing diverse protagonists in children's literature. Without further ado, I feel like we need a drum line, but without further ado, I want to welcome Miss Iolani Bullock to our show.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you guys tonight.
Yeah,
and we're excited to have
you. Yeah, welcome to the show. How are you doing today?
Good, doing really well. My son's allergies are kicking in, so one of those days. But other than that, it's been great.
That's what's up. Awesome. We're glad that you're here. You're pretty special, because you have this mask on at day, but then at night it's like novelist at night, mom at night. You know what I'm saying? Like, I love moms with all these types of things going on. So I'm excited. Let's get it. Let's get into it.
You just made me feel like a superhero. Like, I put on my mask and my cape and start flying around at night. I love it. Okay.
But it's not who we really are. I mean, I know we have jobs and we like our jobs, but who are we really? Who are we really? And that comes out in your passion. Since I've been a mom, there's a lot of my passions changed. I mean, they still have the underlying, but but this ain't my podcast right now. So
I think that's a great topic, but
yeah,
we'll table that for a one in the future.
Yeah, that's true.
So let's get warmed up a little bit. And I just want to know, what is your relationship like with your mom?
Yeah, my relationship with my mom is definitely one of advice and counsel, whether I like to admit it or not. I speak to her most days, either by text or by phone, of course, because, she wants to check in on her grandbabies. That's numero uno. But she is truly the person that I can ask anything and everything and go to for advice. And as I've gotten older and become a mother myself, I feel like it's even more so, a hallmark of our relationship.
That's beautiful. And it's so interesting how our relationships can change as we get older and we become mothers. It changed with our mom, because I know that my relationship changed drastically with my mom when I became a mom, and I just had all these revelations. So I love that you guys have that kind of relationship where even though she wants to just check in on her grandkids every single day, she is there to offer a listening ear and offer advice to you as a mom. I love that. On that note, what is your mom philosophy, and where did you get it from? Did you get it from your mom, or did you develop it?
Yeah, I think my mom philosophy is definitely go with your gut. It's something that I realized that my mom had to do, and that was one of the revelations, Patricia, that I had, especially because she was a single parent raising me, and she had to make decisions that just felt right in her heart and make sure that it was right for me. And I do the same. So I definitely think I got it from her. I feel like everyone's style is so different as a parent, and you have to figure out what works for you, what you're comfortable with, and go with that. And so, I realized that people are so critical of mothers. Mothers are so critical of mothers. And you have to really think through what is the best for me, and I can't follow the pack or all the advice, but go with what I know truly I believe is going to work for me and my children. And so when I first became a mother with my son Lennox, I had to tune out all the noise, and do what I felt was best. And that was part of me taking him to Thailand at a young age. I felt like that was going to be a great experience for him. And despite all the noise and the naysayers and the questions, I went with my gut, and it was one of the best experiences we had.
You know what? Let's touch on something real quick, because I like this intuition. When you hear it, rock with it. Go with it 100%. And people will like for you to have a consequence behind it, and they want it for you so bad. Like, she's gonna go and do her own thing. They're gonna get kidnapped by a tribe of, something crazy. Come out of the blue. Like, they're like almost hoping the phone would ring, because it's not something, that they would do. So that's really great of following your intuition, knowing 100%, whatever happens, you don't even feel bad about it. You should feel good about it, because everything leads to something that leads to something that you needed to know for you and your kids, or you and your children. That's how I've learned it. But that's awesome, Yolanda.
And everything happens for a reason. So even if my gut is telling me to do something and maybe there is a negative consequence, there's a reason for that. But I have to follow my gut, because I'm my children's best advocate and greatest advocate. And so, I know them best, and I have to trust that what I'm deciding is best for them.
I love that. Yeah. And I love that you said to turn down the noise, because you said something that's so true. We're all different. We all have different styles. And just because something wasn't great for me, like if I decided I was going to travel with my kids and I had all these horrible experiences, so I'm like, don't do it. And I try to tell all my mom friends, do not travel with young kids. That's my experience. That doesn't mean that you're going to have the exact same experience. So for me to say that to you is really me putting my experience on you. My experience has nothing to do with yours. You could go and have a completely different experience and be like, this is what we need. This is what our life needs to be. So yeah. And like you said, what's best for your kids. I don't know your kids. So how can I tell you how to raise your children?
We should be offering support.
Yeah.
Like, if you say, I'm going to go out of the country with my baby, he's 6 months old. Okay, well, you know what? Make sure you have enough formula, because they won't have that formula. Oh, I didn't think of that. Not don't go,
right.
Some type of great words of support. Or, hey, did you think of this? Did you think of this? They don't have this adapter over there, and you're going to need to heat his milk up. You understand? So that's what we should be. We should be offering support.
Right.
And that's the beauty of parenting, that there's no one way to do it. And there are so many facets of it and so many styles of it. So you take a little from this friend and take a little from your mom and how you were raised, and you create your own style. And, especially, being right now in a 2-parent household with me and my husband and our 2 kids, we both, had divorced parents. And so that was a really big revelation for us when we got married, is we didn't see that. So how do we create that? And we certainly, it was a lot of going with your gut and what feels right and what works for us and what do we agree on. And so that is 100% how I parent.
Well, let's take a step back. So you mentioned how your mom philosophy really pushed you into, maybe that's not the right way to say it, but that led to you taking your son on an international trip. So you are a traveling mama. You want your kids to be exposed to different cultures and all of that, and to know that the world is so much bigger than the United States. So where did that come from? You have a passion for traveling. Where did it come from?
And tell us how old your son was when you first took him out too, so we can get a scope of that.
Yes. So for both of us, my son was 2 months old when we took him out of the country. I'm actually not sure I was when I left the country, but I must have been less than one. My father's from the Bahamas, and I went when I was a baby. I do not remember this trip to visit that side of my family. So, and my family had traveled when they were younger. So that was certainly part of them. I didn't hear a ton about it. So I don't know that it came directly that I, heard it from them and then wanted to do it. But there has always been something in me that's curious and interested about other people for whatever reason. And so, for me, the first time I can remember traveling out of the country was in 8th grade. And my church decided to sponsor and do fundraisers and, all the things, the bake sales, et cetera, to get our youth group out of the country for World Youth Day in Rome, Italy. And I remember people being like, Rome, Italy, we're a bunch of Bronx kids. Half of us were like, where is that? What are we doing? And I'm like, let's go. I'm excited. I don't know much about it. And so I think I've always had this innate sense of just adventure and like wanting to know something different. So that was my first experience that I viscerally remember leaving the country and making that decision for myself in a way. 8th grade, mom is still
with your
obviously
mom's
exactly the decision maker. But that for me was the first time I remember it. And when my son was 2 months old, as I mentioned, when we took him to Thailand, and I truly feel that although, a lot of the naysayers, like, he's not going to remember the trip. Why would you pay for a baby to go that far when it's not going to be something they remember? What if they get sick? Do you have the formula? What happens if, something goes wrong? What about extra diapers? I was sort of like, you know what? My gut is telling me we should go. Babies are born everywhere, so I'll find something that's going to work. But also, I think it's important for him, like it was for me, to smell something different, see something different, experience something different, hear something different. Even at 2 months old, I truly believe that has opened up his mindset. And I see him now as a 2.5-year-old, curious about things and wanting to try things. And I hope and feel that that might have come out of that trip where his senses were just broadened at a young age. And so, I got that I can remember in 8th grade and gave that to him at 2 months.
You went to Thailand with a 2-month-old. I left Florida with a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old, and people thought I was crazy. We were on a plane, and they were like, "Why are you going to go over to the west side of the United States?" Like, wait a minute, you guys are acting like I'm going off the grid or something. Like, right. And you got a baby. Yeah, they don't have the same food over there. Like over there.
In the same country?
Right. Country, which totally different. Is different though, but it is different.
It is different. You're right.
Goya beans up there is different. But that's I would probably have been like asking you so many questions with your 2-month-old. Like, oh boy, in the back in the day, it was your baby don't come out the house until it's 4 months old.
Right.
And you about to take them where?
Well, what was that like?
Kudos to you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Trust, we did our research. We talked to our pediatrician, will we have the necessary shots? Are there other shots that we don't know about that you need for Thailand? There weren't any. I had been to Thailand before, so I already knew that we could not bring a stroller. There was just no way. Many of the streets are not just built for that. And so we had to make a decision to get a mesh carrier that had a lot of airflow because obviously Thailand is really hot. And so Lennox was in a carrier for the whole trip. And so there were decisions we had to make also with packing. As you both know, whenever you take your kids anywhere, there's so much stuff. And we were new parents, brand new parents. And so we had to really think through, okay, there's a lot of stuff, but we can't weigh ourselves down for this trip. And so one of the decisions we made was to only bring enough diapers to like get us there through maybe the first week. And then we were going to buy diapers there. And so Lennox ended up wearing pull-ups at 2 months old because that was the diaper that they had in the Thai store, and they were fine and they worked, and like it was all great, all good. But that was one of the questions that we got from so many people. What if they don't have diapers? I'm like, I'm pretty sure they have diapers.
Right. Well, you just put him in a little bowl. He'll have it.
Yeah, just wash him off. It's so much easier.
Just wash him off. It's breast milk poo, right? And that's the best poo.
Yes.
Breast milk.
Yes.
And how long were you there? How long were you in Thailand?
We were there for 6 weeks. I was breastfeeding at the time. And so that was one of the things that for me was comforting. I knew that as long as, I was staying healthy and doing what I needed to do, that he was going to get what he needed. And I didn't need to find formula anywhere. So that was something that worked out well.
I was going to say, well, there were plenty of animals over there. We could have. I would have, listen, the looks on people's faces when I said I ran out of formula and no breast milk, I was like, we found an elephant that just had a baby, and this is what I did. Because you ain't think I should have went over here. I just, oh, girl.
Yeah. And you know what? He was fine. See, look, he's so healthy. Oh, man.
You're the memory of an elephant. There you go.
And I mean, I think that saying something like that would leave somebody absolutely speechless, and you just walk away and leave them with their thoughts.
I'll send you some pictures.
Right. Well, oh man. Okay. So what were some of the things that you guys did while you were over there? 6 weeks. That's a pretty good chunk of time.
What did we do? We ate a lot. So my husband was working during the day. Lennox and I would go out. I would have our little itinerary, and we did everything from visiting museums, seeing animals. I'm a big on learning about culture through food. And so we would try different places to eat. He wasn't eating the food, but I had him in the carrier or asleep on my lap while I'm trying all the noodles and the soups and the different things. And so that was great. Lots of parks. The hotel we stayed at had a pool, so he got to swim for the first time or try to learn how to swim for the first time. And so, that was really fun. But especially at 2 months old, I think the people watching for him was just amazing, and hearing the different language, hearing people speak differently than what he would hear from myself or my husband was huge for him. But the one thing I loved, that was odd but really endearing is that a baby, number one, breaks down any cultural barrier. The smile of a child, people are like melting. And then a little Black boy, my goodness, we were like, people were like, can I take pictures with you and your family? And especially this little boy. And we were like, okay, because it was an anomaly. He was an anomaly traveling as a little Black boy, as a family of 3. I don't think many people, at least that were going on our flights, flying through Japan, saw 3 brown people with a baby so little. And so we got a lot of like stares and smiles and like, can I take a picture? So it was a really interesting trip. But while we were out during the day by ourselves, I would go to different places. And while I would sit down and eat lunch, the waitresses would come up and say, I'll hold him for you so you can eat. And I was like, please, ma'am, thank you. And it was great.
Wow.
And I just want to say that Lennox did eat the noodles indirectly.
He did.
Him. So yes.
He likes a little spice in his food now. And I think it was due to that Thailand trip.
Probably so.
Yes. And how old is Lennox now?
2.5.
2.5. Do you share like little stories with him? Like, I know he's 2.5, but they know a lot. And it's like, I took you to Thailand. And do you say little, because my kids love to hear their like stories of when they were little, but he's still little, I know, but do you share
we do. I've tried to keep, we have a book of his first 12 months and there are photos that we've pasted in, and that's his favorite book by far, but we can't have him look at it too much because he still likes to rip stuff up. But we will do that. We show him videos. So we have a family Instagram, Bullocks Abroad, And there's a lot of the pictures and the videos from there. So the first time he ever swam, I just showed him that video the other day because we have him in swim lessons now. And now he's afraid. I'm like, but back then you were swimming in Thailand. You weren't afraid.
Yeah.
He's like, that was me, mama. I'm like, that was you. You like the water.
Yeah.
So yeah, we try to remind him.
Well, I think, it's so funny that people, and I've heard this because I follow a lot of people online, a lot of moms online that travel with their kids. That's their thing. And I know something that they get quite a bit is, well, when you travel with your kid and they're so young, they're not going to remember. So what's the point? And it's not, it's great to create memories with your children, but we're moms. And I think it's important for us to create memories for ourselves. And like you said, to share those stories, and LaTanya, you said your kids love hearing the stories of things that happened when they were younger. And I do that with my kids all the time. I love telling them, oh, we did this when you were a baby. When you were a baby, we would do this. And they ask all kinds of questions. So creating memories, why would you just start to create memories when your kid can remember? I mean, because there are things that I remember from when I was 5, and there are things that I don't remember from when I was 5. And there are things that I remember from when I was 13. And there are a lot of things that I don't remember. So, I mean, we as moms deserve to create memories with our kids for ourselves as
Definitely.
Well.
That is so powerful. And I'm so glad you said that, because it didn't strike me as that. I think as moms are supposed to be selfless and everything is for your kids and, you're pouring yourself into them. But to your point, this is just as much for me as it was for Lennox. And I love that you said that. When he turned 6 months old, a friend of mine had a birthday party or a birthday weekend in Bermuda. And I beat myself up like, should I go? But he's only 6 months old and we already took this big trip and this is just me by myself, and the guilt was in. And I'm like, but I need this for me. Like, this is a memory for me. And he's going to be home with his dad for a weekend and they're going to have memories. And so I just love that you're, centering mom as being important, because we are so important. And sometimes we forget that and our kids forget that and everyone forgets that, but we have to remember ourselves, because if we're not good to ourselves, we're not good for our kids.
Memories are also good for us as they get older. Like I said, before we started, my daughter turned 12 and I kind of went over her birth story with her, and she's like beaming at me where, even though it was the most traumatic for me because I had to have an emergency C-section. And, but then I feel the overwhelming love I had to make that, to have someone grow in my body. And I know people, you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is mushy, but it's an amazing thing to see the manifestation of you becoming a mom for the first time. I know if you have multiple kids, and we do, that first child love is something that kind of hits.
It's not like off the charts.
Right. Right.
Like a ton of bricks. 100%. Yep.
Yeah, I love all 3 of my kids, but my daughter, that memory of her is like, sometimes when I get a little, frustrated with, my 12-year-old, I'm like, oh, man, but that memory of just seeing you and hearing you cry when I sang to you. And she's like, you sang to me, Mom? What? Yes, girl. Shaking from the anesthesia and everything. I was shaking, But it's important for us, to kind of also center us back. Like, wow, in all the experiences that we have, with our kids. For us.
For sure. Well, so let's take it back to Thailand, and not just Thailand, but there's a couple things that you mentioned that I have questions about. When you travel, because that's y'all's thing, and you have a job, a career that allows you to travel. What kind of traveler are you? Are you the kind that likes to experience the culture, like a local, or are you the kind of person that likes to do the touristy type things?
We are the type that like to experience it like a local. I think for me, I've always been drawn to off the beaten path things, or I want to know like what do people eat normally. One thing I like to do, which is maybe strange, is go to the local grocery store just to see like what do people eat, what are the typical things. So
That's a
the
good
local
idea.
yeah, just to see, the local experience is so important to me. I mean, when I was in Colombia, I chatted with the Airbnb owner and was just mentioning that I really like to take cooking classes and learn about culture through food. And he said, "Oh, well, my mom is a chef." Next day, ended up in his mom's catering kitchen, and I'm learning how to make all these Colombian dishes and talking to her about her experiences. Or, in Kenya, we, instead of sort of flying to this beach town, we took a sleeper train from Nairobi to Mombasa, which was sort of the beach town. And I mean, it was a 12-hour trip that turned into a 24-hour trip, supposed to be 12 hours, but it was the super old train. We saw the countryside. The people that we met during mealtime are just so interesting. And, instead of just jetting over, it's like, take the long way, take the way most folks go. And those make the absolute best memories.
Wow. And
That's
I
a
know
really good point that you had. I just cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go.
You made a really good point. When my husband and I went to Jamaica, we left our kid for the first time. The first one, she was 17 months, and I just thought it was too young to leave her. But then you said he was 6 weeks when you went out of town. I was like, whoa, I was overreacting. But we left her and we went to Jamaica, and they were like, we're doing this trip, and they're standing there with these pamphlets, and my husband's like going past them, and I said, what are you doing? He says, I'm looking for the guy on the corner. I'm like, the guy on the corner? He's like, yeah, I'm gonna give him a couple bucks and I want him to walk us around Jamaica. And that's what he did. And I was like, you trust him? And my husband's like Miami street hood type person. He's like, I'm a good judge of character. I know.
He can suss it out.
Yeah. So guess what? I'm living, y'all. I'm here today.
Right.
But it was such a great experience. And then all the other people had to talk about was like, oh, look, this is what we did. We was like, man, listen, I could tell you where to get some good, okay, and it'll be real good medicine for your whole body. Y'all already know what I'm talking about. But yes, I learned all of that on this trip.
Wow. That's not to say that, the touristy thing is bad by any means. Certainly we've done the touristy thing and we enjoy that too. But I think, there are times when you really are like, I want to see behind the tourist curtain.
Yeah.
Really they put on for all the people and the tourist industry. But if you're into that and really want that local experience, you have to seek it out. And once you find it, it's always great. I always find that it's fantastic.
And I think like LaTanya said, she's alive today. I think there's this negative view or perspective connected to that. So they have this tourist experience, and like you said, there's nothing wrong with that either or. I think it's nice to have a balance. But there's just it just seems like there's such an opportunity for richness, like so much more that you can get when you go to the guy on the corner, and of course use your gut in whether or not you should go with this person or try somebody else, but just to see behind the tourist curtain. So, and since there's such a negative perspective connected to that, when you guys do this, is there any judgment? Like, has there been any judgment? Because it sounds like there was kind of judgment in the beginning when you were like, I'm taking my 2-month-old to Thailand, and people were like, well, there are no kids over there. They may not have diapers. There's no formula. What are you going to do? How are you going to feed them? How are you going to keep them clean? And so, to go off the beaten path. And even, I guess this is kind of a twofold question. When you mentioned you went to Jamaica on a trip by yourself and you felt such guilt. So yeah, just talk to us about that. If there was any judgment.
Yeah. I don't believe that I got judgment I got judgment in the form of questions, definitely. And I think the biggest thing with taking Lennox out of the country at 2 months was we were new parents and I was a new mom. So I think people may have felt like, are you sure you know what you're doing? I remember even telling friends who were also new moms or parents, and they would sort of nod like, okay, but then like give me the eyes like, are you really sure that's a good idea? And so, like I said earlier, I had to sort of push past that to say that would not be your choice. You would not feel comfortable. And you have to feel comfort as a parent. But I can be out of my comfort zone just enough where I still feel like I'm in control, but I'm growing and I'm learning. And I think, and I can sit in that and I can feel in that and be okay in that. And so that was a big thing for me, is understanding, you know, what was my comfort level, even if that wasn't someone else's comfort level, and where was I okay. I wouldn't have pushed it, you know, super far out. I certainly did research on hospitals and local infrastructure, also expat communities in case we did need something and help. And so we had folks in place. But I certainly had to make sure that the discomfort was just discomforting enough for me so that I still felt like I was in control of the situation and that we could still have a good time. Why would I go all the way over there if I was going to be nervous and you can't go out and you can't do this and I don't want anyone to touch him? Then it's like I should have just stayed home. So pushing past that discomfort and the judgment is what allowed us to really have a great time.
Sometimes people judgment will play out in our story if we accept it. And I always, you know, something I tell people that I talk to is, just because they say something bad may happen and you go looking for something bad may happen, something bad may happen. You know, there's a quote I like is, why worry? It may never happen.
Yep.
You know, so I don't let someone else's experience, just like you said, Patricia, their worry, their stop you from living your life. Exactly. And it seems like you're going to have that memory up until you're, you know, 95 years old, and you're telling, you know, in all the future adventures you're going to have, because I know you're not going to stop there.
No, and I will be that grandma, like, when I was a young mom, I took your dad. That is 100% going to be me. I already know the old grandma stories I'm going to tell, and Thailand will be one of them.
By that time, they'll be saying, we're going 20,000 leagues under the sea, grandma. And you're like, go head on, baby.
Or Jupiter. Ahead. We're going to Jupiter. And it's like, no big deal.
Jupiter.
Or somewhere else, some other galaxy. So what about for you taking care of yourself as a mom and going on a girls' trip without your son? How was that? Because I know you said you felt mom guilt. Was there any judgment from outside for that?
There was no judgment from the outside that I could feel myself. It was really internal. A big part of it was a fun 40th birthday weekend from my good, amazing girlfriend. And I knew that I was still breastfeeding, so I had enough milk. Like, Lennox was going to be taken care of at home, but I was going to have to pump and dump. And the mental toll that took on me, I think, was probably the largest. You know, like, this is the golden milk, and it takes so much for us to produce and do the whole thing. And I really had to think critically about, you know, what are the pros and cons here? Is this something I'm okay with? It's only, you know, 2.5, 3 days. And ultimately I said, I need the break. I need to be with my girls. I need to be with my friends. I need to get away. It's good for my mental health. It's going to make me a better mom, I know, because I'm going to just be refreshed to come back into this. And I had to, like, come to that reckoning with myself to say, it's okay.
Someone else may think you... Were you able to do that? Were you able to just mentally disconnect, though?
It took probably a full day of me being there in Bermuda to disconnect. And then finally it was like something switched and I was like, okay, I'm having fun. Like, this is amazing. I haven't felt this in a long time, you know?
Yeah. Right. That's good.
And you trust your spouse to take care of your child that you guys, you know, created together. So
100%. And that is something, it's funny that I've heard in so many different circles where people are like, wait, your husband bathes your children, or your husband's alone with your children? And I'm like,
oh my,
I married him. So
right.
yes, I trust him with my life, with my children's lives. Like, yes,
Exactly.
he's doing everything I am doing with the exception of breastfeeding. He does it all. So yeah.
But that's not
Wow.
common though. That's not common
That's
in a
right.
lot of other cultures. And when I used to tutor my Saudi Arabian students, they would tell me all the time, like, that's not my husband's job.
Mm.
I bathe, or they would have a live-in nanny. So they were like, we do those things. And she was like,
Mhm.
you let my husband, excuse me, that is a curse word. Let him do these things. This is something that he enjoys. Like you
Mhm.
said, this is why I married him. Not to knock anybody culture. It is what it is, where it
Right.
is. But
Yeah.
I definitely understand when you say leaving your kids at home. With my husband takes way better care of my kids than I do. I go to sleep on them and all types of stuff. He's like,
Yeah, my husband is a
Mm-mm.
child whisperer. He's so much better than I am. I'm like, are you sure you're not the mom?
Right.
I'm telling you.
Oh, I got questions sometimes about myself.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel blessed and lucky, and thank God that that never crossed my mind. So maybe that was something external that I
Mm,
heard, but never crossed my mind as a factor that I couldn't
Mhm.
leave Lennox with him.
Mhm.
So yeah, the fact that you bring that up, it's so funny because never once did I think that would be an issue. Would it be a lot just taxing? Like you are the man on man contact all weekend long? Of course, for any parent.
Mhm.
But,
mm-hmm.
I feel like we are truly not just a marriage, but a partnership. And we knew when
Right.
we had kids, we were both in this
Right.
100%. We enjoy it, except for the really bad days, because, you always have a bad day. But we were both in it, whatever that meant.
Yeah.
So important.
So
That
true.
is so important.
Well,
Because you would have stopped after one kid. You would have been like, there's
nah.
no more coming up in here. I can't, because I can't go to Bermuda,
No
let
girls
alone the
trips for
grocery
me.
store.
Never
Exactly.
alone. Never. Well, I mean, this has been really a great conversation for me. I have, there's a couple more things that I want to ask. And I'm just curious because I have never taken my kids far off. We've traveled inside the United States. What would you say is the most challenging part about traveling abroad with children?
I would say, and maybe it's not just abroad because I think it's travel in general. Children are so attuned to their environment and their structure and the cadence and their schedule that
Mhm.
anytime I think you bring your kid to a new environment, having them adjust to that is hard. Certainly in
Mm.
a new time zone with sleeping and the whole thing, of course, but even I was thinking when we did a layover in Japan on our way to Thailand and we called ahead to the hotel and asked them for a crib, and the crib was so low to the floor. And that's a cultural thing we learned.
Mhm.
And here our crib is not all the way down. And I think even visually, I had read for children to look around and see the space that they're in. They become very attuned to that. And Lennox did not sleep one night in that crib because I think it was so low to the floor. He was like, wait a minute, where, what, who?
Am I crawling or sleeping?
Exactly. Am I on the floor? So I really think that it's just having them adjust to a new environment. I think the age also doesn't matter. It's sort of like, okay, what happens here? How do I do this? This is a new hotel room or space or RV or train, bus, or however you're getting there. And so I think that's the biggest part is helping them adjust, which is why in writing my book, it was really because I couldn't find anything that would help prepare him to give him the heads up, to help him feel more comfortable, to help just start putting those ideas in his head that it's going to be okay. It's going to be different, but it's going to be okay.
Mhm. Yeah, do it anyway. Even though there are
Mhm.
those challenges, do it anyway. because
I can't wait till your
is
kids
at
get
home.
bigger. I can't wait till your kids are older and you get to see their responses or their reactions because my kids flipped when they saw I call it like a little jitney bus, but it's bigger than the thing in Thailand, but
The
smaller
tuk
than your
tuk. Yep.
average it's minivan, right? But the guy was sitting on the left side driving. My kids flipped. They were like, "Mom, the car isn't going to move," on the whatever side there. Wait a minute, we sit on the left, the right side. But it was on the different side. I can't remember what side he was sitting on. And they were like looking at him the whole time. We're like, look out the window, baby. There's blue water. Look out the window. And they're like staring this man down. And it was really cool. And also the money difference for the kids. That was different too. It's going to be amazing when you start to see that, like it's like, oh my gosh, you're learning stuff, like
different things.
It's great.
And that's the whole thing. That's the whole premise behind, why I like to travel, why I want my kids to travel, why I wrote my book was difference is not scary. Like we should lean into difference and be curious about difference. Difference is just different. And that's all it is, but we shouldn't think that if someone is different from me or they do something different from me, it's bad, or it means that they're not good people, or I could never do that. I'm scared of that. And so that's something that I was really hoping to break down. And especially in today's climate, I think that message is so important. Truly, difference is just different.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I have another question. What is your goal trip? Like as a family, what's like the goal?
Okay, so my goal trip is to recreate my honeymoon trip, which was in South Africa, but to make it a family trip. And so to show our kids all the different landscapes and things they can do, from the city to the countryside to the vineyards to the animals. I just think the beaches, they would love that. But also to be in a place where everyone looks like them. Like, how cool is that? So that would be my dream trip.
Oh, I love it. And then,
can I go on your dream trip?
I know.
Let's go. Can we do a family trip?
My kids are great babysitters also, but I mean, not that we'll need one, but I'm just saying, so. I want to go.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome. And so is that something that you want to do when they're a little bit older, or are you like whenever the opportunity presents itself?
I think a little bit older, because one thing I have always dreamt of once we got married and we talked about traveling with our kids is, maybe once a year, every other year, we can do a big trip and we can like pick out a place on a map. And part of preparing for the trip is teaching them about the culture and the language and what to expect and the norms that are there, so that when they get there, they're curious and they ask questions and they want to talk to people about it. And so I think, as they get older and are able to do that more, that sort of really big trip with a safari maybe and all these different things would be perfect.
Yeah. Oof. Yeah. I definitely, I'm going in your bag. I'm going to be your stove.
No, we're not going in her bag.
No, we're going with her. We're going with her. We're going to meet you guys
I'm going to say, we're traveling together. We already put that out there. That's right. Not, we'll take you with us.
Black Mom Diaries travel trip. I love it.
Yep.
Ooh, let me write that down.
Write it down. And then text it to me so I can write it down. So.
I can't. Yeah. So
well, I mean, this would have to be Black Mom Diaries in the Motherland. I'm 100% down. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would be awesome. I looked at Aerial America. Aerial America has a whole thing on Africa, and the places just that you mentioned, like just from one side to the other, it's a different landscape, and the beaches are phenomenal. I have a friend that lives in South Africa, and she's always like, "We come see us." And I've always wanted to go to Tanzania. That's a place where I said, if I think this will be a place where I don't know why it just resonates with me. I don't know anything about it, and I just always wanted to go.
It's beautiful.
And come on now, you been there?
Yep. You have to go. Amazing. The food is
I'm not
great.
sad. You just make me want to go even more.
And you know people there. Oh my gosh, you have to.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. I know some really, and she's always telling me she went over there and had a fourth baby, and they moved.
Wow.
And I used to always tell her, if you guys have any room for me in your suitcase, she was like, we don't have to put you in us. And she has such a great accent. We don't have to put you in our suitcase. You guys could just come stay with us for like 1 or 2 months. 1 or 2. I don't want to go on vacation if it's for 3 days. I'm sorry. That's that's a little small getaway.
I want to go far.
Yes.
But you have to stay for a little bit.
Yeah. Yes. You have definitely made me want to get, back out there traveling. I'm just very sad a little bit about how the travel industry is a little, now it's changed.
Yeah.
Our last trip was on a cruise, and we went to, Cayman Islands and Mexico and things like that. And my kids, Mexico was really great for them. We had planned on going on another cruise we wanted to do a transatlantic one. So we had to fly to Germany, but my husband got his passport first, and then we were going to get ours. But then when everything started to go like this, we just never,
sideways.
We never, did it. So that was going to be something that it takes like 2 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks to do a transatlantic cruise, and that we were planning. But hopefully things, go back to the way, maybe not the way it was, but
maybe better.
New normal. Yeah.
Maybe
you guys will take your trip. So
yeah,
I know.
Take your trip. So
on the Black Mom Diary boat.
Yeah. Hey.
I mean, since we putting stuff out there,
I like it.
The Black Mom Diary boat,
Oh man, I was about to start singing, but I'm gonna spare y'all. So yeah, I love having the opportunity to be able to talk to different people, and this has been really incredible, Iolani. I want to know if you and I were to meet in a building and we were going on an elevator together, what would you say to me in those 30 seconds where I could walk away and be like, okay, this is who she is?
I would say that I am a New Yorker at heart and a Bronx native. I am a mom, but I'm someone who absolutely loves travel and culture. And so I would probably tell you where my next trip is, which I think is going to be to Portugal. And I would ask if you would like to come along with me.
And I would say yes. Well, okay. So talk to us about your book. You mentioned your book a couple times. So tell us about your book.
Yeah. So my book is called Lennox Takes Flight. And it is completely inspired by taking my son to Thailand, as I mentioned, at 2 months old, and truthfully not finding books that talked about travel for young children, and certainly not finding books that had Black protagonists in the book as the main characters that traveled. And so for me, because I didn't see it, I created it. And I started this story first thinking it was going to be a picture book, but actually it's now morphed into a first chapter book for 5th or 6th graders. And what's really cool is that the story is about a boy named Lennox, whose family says, hey, we're taking a trip and we're going to Thailand. And in learning about the trip and what it takes to get on the flight and get his passport, his father shares that his great-grandfather was a Tuskegee airman and shows him the pilot wings. So Lennox is so inspired to take this flight and to get some wings of his own that when he gets to the airport, he loses his passport. And the story is the adventure of him and his little sister trying to find it before their flight takes off. So I really hope that this book inspires Black children to see themselves as travelers. It inspires all children to lean into and normalize difference. And that it just inspires families to try something different and try something new.
Boy, I was leaning in to this story.
I know.
I was like, what?
I got chills.
Get out of here.
Yeah. I know. And you know what I kept thinking when I was listening to you? This sounds like a series, like the beginning of a series. Is this series or,
We'll see. I think after I put out this book, I do want to do that picture book because that was my original idea for the really young and little ones, but you never know. Lennox might take Thailand next. We'll see.
Okay.
That's what I love. It's endless.
Right. Well, where can people find this? Do we have, it's not out yet.
It's not out yet. It'll be published in December, but you can find out more about the inspiration behind the book, the inspiration behind the story at lennoxtakesflight.com. And that's Lennox with just one N, lennoxtakesflight.com. So that's the best way to learn more about it.
Okay. And we'll definitely have that information in the description as well. So anybody that needs to see it will be able to see it also. So I'm excited about it. I'm ready to get it. And so also, I think that when moms want to travel with their kids, and I think, like there's something to be said about people with more melanin in their skin traveling. It's a different experience. It can be a different experience. So do you have any social media where you talk about that, give tips, share your experiences, that sort of thing? I think I do something.
Yes. So on Instagram, we have our family travel Instagram. It's at Bullocks Abroad. And that's where we share. You'll see Lennox in Thailand. You'll see us sort of hopping around, eating different foods, but also start to share some travel tips. Some that are things that you may have thought of or not thought of, but things that I've just figured out along the way.
Definitely check that out, guys.
Yes,
that's a value there.
It is. And I just want to say thank you so much for being here and sharing with us your experiences and advice. I feel more educated in this area and a little more confident. And like LaTanya said, like hearing about your experiences, it makes her want to go there even more. Like it just seems more realistic. And so I feel that. And I'm looking forward to getting my passport and getting out of here.
As long as the podcast can reach over there, you can go.
Hey, I'm going during break. We're going during break. So yeah.
Wait a minute now.
Break time. Hiatus. Yeah.
That'll be good though. So this thank you again, Ilani. This, like I said, she expressed the gratitude that we feel for you coming onto our show. So much meat and goodness and vegetables into what you said, and just to be inspired to write a book about that experience. And I know you have many in you because you've seen and done things that in this half of your life that some people in the second, they haven't even tried to do. And their kids are out the house. This isn't for just people with kids. There's some people with young kids. There's some people with older kids that won't leave the States because of their older kids. So this has been really good. Thank you again for coming out.
Yes, I had so much fun with you too. This has been awesome. I appreciate you having me on, and look forward to just hearing more of the great guests that you all have on the show.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. And for you guys out there listening, if you love what you hear, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. If you want to leave us a comment or some feedback, we want to hear your feedback. If you want to connect with us on social media, you can connect with us. Just search for us at Black Mom Diaries. You can look for us on Facebook. You can look for us on Twitter. You can look for us on Instagram. But we want to connect with you, right?
Yep. Yes, we do.
Yeah. And then of course, if you
leave us a comment for the podcast.
Yeah. Talk to us. That's what we want. We want you to communicate.
We didn't sound too sure about that, Patricia. Leave us a comment.
Leave us a comment. You know, yes. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, yes. If you have any suggestions for things that you want to hear on the show, email us at blackmomdiaries@gmail.com. We want to hear from you. So you can get at us on social media, get at us on the podcast by leaving us a comment or, you know, whatever.
Patricia just got gangster on y'all. Get at us.
If that's gangster, I'm nervous. But thank y'all so much for listening to the Black Mom Diaries, and we'll see you again next show.
Next time, check out and stay tuned in. We got some more amazing guests coming on, some more Black Mom greatness. And until next time, this is LaTanya.
And I'm Patricia. Thank you for listening to
Black Mom Diaries.
I saw what you did there. Thanks so much for spending this episode with us. And if you like what you heard, feel free to like, share, and subscribe. And of course, be sure to join us on the next episode of the Black Mom Diaries.